Most people think they know why the Titanic sank. They picture a massive iceberg tearing open the ship, sealing its fate in seconds. But that version of the story is comforting, because it's simple. The truth is harder to accept. The iceberg didn't doom the Titanic. It only exposed a chain of decisions, flaws, and overconfidence already in motion. What actually sank the Titanic wasn't frozen water. It was human belief, the belief that this ship could not fail. Before the Titanic ever touched the ocean, it had its imagination. This was not just a ship, it was a statement. A declaration that human engineering had finally conquered the sea. Newspapers praised its size, its luxury, its safety. 14 watertight compartments, advanced technology, experienced designers. Passengers boarded with absolute confidence, believing danger belonged to the past. When people said the Titanic was unsinkable, it wasn't arrogance. It was faith in progress, faith in machines. Faith that disaster was something that happened to other ships. As the Titanic crossed the Atlantic, the ocean began sending warnings. Not subtle ones. Clear, repeated messages from other ships, all saying the same thing. Ice ahead. Icebergs drifting directly in Titanic's path. Some of those warnings reached the bridge. Others were delayed, dismissed, or never delivered at all. The ship pressed forward at near full speed, cutting through dangerous waters as if nothing could challenge it. That night, the greatest threat wasn't the ice itself. It was the growing belief that slowing down simply wasn't necessary. The night of April 14th was dangerously quiet. The sea was calm, too calm. No waves broke against the ice, no white foam to reveal what waited ahead. There was no moon in the sky, no glow on the horizon, only stretching redirection. High above the deck, the lookouts strained their eyes. They had no binoculars. They relied on instinct, shadows, and hope, in a night where hope offered no protection. Then it happened. The iceberg appeared, massive, silent, and immovable. The collision scraped along the hull. Steel bent, plates buckled, but the Titanic didn't sink immediately. In fact, the ship stayed afloat. For hours, the Titanic floated. The iceberg was only a trigger, a warning sign of something far bigger. Flaws in design, flaws in judgment, flaws in human pride. The iceberg was never the villain. It was the spark. The real disaster had already been set in motion. The iceberg had scratched the surface, but it wasn't the killer. The real enemy was the ship itself. The Titanic's watertight compartment seemed invincible, sealed from flooding. But there was a fatal flaw. The bulkheads didn't reach high enough. Water spilled over one compartment. Then the next. Then the next. A slow, unstoppable chain. Reaction turned the supposedly unsinkable ship into a floating tomb. No iceberg, no collision could have done this alone. The disaster was written into the design, waiting for the night to arrive. As the compartments filled, the crew hesitated. Some didn't believe the ship could sink. Lifeboats were lowered half full. Passengers were told to stay calm, to wait, to hope. Every minute wasted was a minute lost. What could have been an organized evacuation became panic and chaos. The iceberg had scratched the hull, but human choices turned a manageable emergency into catastrophe. The real tragedy wasn't the collision, it was what people didn't do. As the Titanic listed and the water rose, not everyone had the same chance to survive. First-class passengers accessed the lifeboats quickly. Third-class passengers faced locked gates, language barriers, and confusion. Many never even reached the deck before the cold Atlantic claimed them. Survival wasn't just luck. It was privilege. Iceberg did discriminate, but society. In the final hours, the tragedy wasn't only the ship sinking. It was the world's inequalities floating on the same cold, dark sea. The bow began to sink. The stern lifted higher, looming impossibly over the freezing water. People clung to rails, to each other, to hope, and some sang to keep panic at bay. Lights still glimmered in cabins as the ship groaned and cracked, as if refusing to die. Then, with a final shudder, the Titanic broke apart. Silence swallowed the screams. The sea, cold and vast, claimed the rest. Hours of mistakes, arrogance, and flawed design culminated here, in the dark, icy Atlantic. The iceberg had been only a witness. When the Titanic sank beneath the waves, the world blamed the iceberg. It was easier that way. It was simple. But the truth is far more unsettling. The iceberg was only a trigger. What really sank the Titanic was a perfect storm of human flaws. Overconfidence, ignored warnings, design compromises, slow evacuation, and social inequality. We built the ship to defy nature, and we believed we could. That belief, more than ice or steel, was the iceberg that doomed it. The Titanic didn't sink because it hit ice. It sank because we thought it couldn't fail.